One thing I've learned over the years is that the body doesn't break down overnight, and it doesn't heal overnight either. But when our joints start aching, when it's harder to get up from the garden bed or walk downstairs without feeling tight or sore, it's usually the body's way of saying, I need some help rebuilding. At the very heart of joint health is collagen, a structural protein that gives our joints flexibility, strength, and support. But after the age of 25, our collagen production begins to slow. That's why we see so many people with joint discomfort by the time they reach midlife. Now, I don't look to injections or synthetic pills for support. I look to the kitchen, because nature has provided us with beautiful healing foods that can supply not just collagen, but also the vitamins, minerals, and enzymes needed to help the body build its own. Today, I want to walk you through 8 collagen-rich foods I've used for years to support healthy joints, naturally, gently, and effectively. Let's begin.
The lemon is acid where it should be. That's why you'll find that most of our salad dressings have lemon in them. But when it is broken down in the gut and the minerals are dispersed and absorbed into the blood and thus to the tissues, it has an alkaline effect, because the lemon is high in the alkaline minerals, which is sodium and potassium, calcium, magnesium and iron. These are the alkaline minerals, and the lemon is high in the alkaline.
You know, people are often surprised when I say lemon is one of the most alkalizing foods you can eat. But Barbara, they say, isn't lemon acidic? And yes, it is acidic on the tongue, and that's exactly where it should be. But once it's metabolized inside the body, it leaves behind those beautiful alkaline minerals: sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. It's these minerals that do the heavy lifting. They support the nervous system, the bones, the muscles, and even the joints. So when you enjoy a squeeze of lemon in warm water first thing in the morning, or drizzle it over your salad, you're not just adding flavor. You're giving your body a gentle flush of minerals that support your inner terrain. I always say, if your internal environment is clean and well mineralized, disease finds it very hard to take hold. And that's part of lemon's charm. It helps keep the internal house tidy, so to speak. It stimulates digestion, encourages the liver to flush out waste, and even helps the gallbladder release bile to break down fats more effectively. One of my favorite ways to use lemon is to pair it with olive oil as a salad dressing. Not only does it taste lovely, but it also helps your body absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, especially important if you're eating leafy greens or steamed vegetables. And don't throw away that zest. The outer peel contains limonene, a compound that supports the immune system and even has anti-inflammatory properties. I'll often grate a bit into soups, stews, or sprinkle it over steamed greens just before serving. Every home really should have a lemon tree, and if you haven't the room, a pot on the veranda will do just fine. It's one of nature's simplest and most powerful gifts, and it belongs in every kitchen.
Dark green leafy vegetables are also alkaline forming. Dark green leafy vegetables we should be eating every day. That's your kale, that's your parsley, that's your, what you call them, collard greens. Do you know, I've never seen collard greens in Australia. You can tell I'm in Alabama. They're a popular food here, but we do have spinach and silver beet, kale. We should be eating something from the dark green family of vegetables every single day. And if you don't, you really should have a dose of green barley or super greens. Also vegetables. Vegetables have an alkaline effect, but there is a question mark with vegetables.
I've always said dark green leafy vegetables are your daily insurance policy. They're alkaline forming, rich in minerals, and they sweep the digestive tract clean like a gentle broom. In my home, you'll always find bunches of kale, spinach, silver beet, and parsley. And if I'm in Australia, those are easy to find. But here in Alabama, well, I discovered collard greens. And I must say, they're quite a treasure. Now, whether it's collards in the south or silver beet in Sydney, these greens should be part of your plate every single day. They're full of magnesium, iron, and chlorophyll, which helps detoxify the liver and enrich the blood. I often tell folks, if you're not eating your greens, you're missing one of nature's finest tools for cleansing and repair. And if for some reason you're not getting them fresh, perhaps you're traveling or the fridge is empty, A scoop of green barley or super greens powder can step in for the day. It's not quite the same as fresh, but it's still rich in those alkalizing minerals your body craves. Now let's talk about the nightshades: tomatoes, capsicum or bell peppers, eggplant or aubergine. Aren't they beautiful, so vibrant, so full of life? And for many, they're perfectly fine, alkaline in effect, loaded with antioxidants. But for others, especially those with joint pain or autoimmune flare-ups, these can act more acidic in the body and even trigger inflammation. So I always recommend this: listen to your body. If you notice joint stiffness or gut upset after eating these vegetables, it might be worth leaving them out for a little while just to see if things improve. At the end of the day, the goal is simple: feed your body what nourishes, not what aggravates. Greens every day. Other vegetables, observe and adjust. That's how we learn to partner with our body rather than push against it.
Tomato with an oil, and I think you'll agree with me, olive oil and tomatoes go very nice. They almost hand in hand together. And you look at Lebanese food, Italian food, there's a lot of tomato and olive oil cooking. When it's cooked with an oil, it releases a plant chemical called lycopene. Lycopene is from the fat-soluble family, and that's another reason why we should be eating a little oil with our meals, because it helps release the fat-soluble vitamins. Lycopene is a potent antioxidant, and it has the ability to reduce the inflammation of the prostate gland, so that's good news, isn't it? So every man over the age of 40 should be having a cooked tomato and olive oil dish maybe 3 or 4 times a week. That's not hard. Lovely base for your chickpeas, your tomatoes, it is tomatoes. For your, in fact, isn't that Mexican, your kidney beans to have with your tacos, or your tacos, I think.
You know, there's something very special about the way tomatoes and olive oil work together. They almost seem to be made for each other, don't they? Just think of Italian cooking or Lebanese dishes. So many of them begin with a rich base of slow-cooked tomatoes in olive oil. It's not just about taste, it's about synergy. When tomatoes are cooked in oil, they release a beautiful plant compound called lycopene. Now, lycopene belongs to the fat-soluble family, so without that oil, your body can't access it properly. Isn't nature clever? She packages nutrients in a way that says, combine me with this and you'll get the full benefit. Lycopene is a potent antioxidant. It's been shown to reduce inflammation, particularly in the prostate gland. That's why I often say every man over the age of 40 should be enjoying a cooked tomato dish with a dash of olive oil several times a week. 3 or 4 times is ideal, and it's really not difficult. Think of a hearty base for your chickpeas, kidney beans or lentils. Add garlic, onion, a little sea salt, maybe some herbs, oregano or thyme, and you've got yourself a nourishing anti-inflammatory meal. Whether it's the base of a pasta sauce or a taco filling, it's not just delicious, it's deeply healing. Now, while we're on the topic of legumes, let me tell you about lima beans, lentils and soy. These are some of the few alkaline-forming legumes, and I recommend them regularly. They're high in plant protein, gentle on the digestive system, and they blend beautifully with tomatoes and greens. So next time you plan a meal, think in pairs: tomato and olive oil, beans and greens, food combining with purpose and with love. That's how we turn everyday cooking into natural healing.
For your grains, the millet is alkaline. We had millet this morning. It's a delicious grain, isn't it? I'm sure you can understand when I said it needs to be dressed. It's basically a bland grain, but it's very nice with the stewed apple and the pear cream and the sprinkles on top. Or it's also very nice if you have it with savoury, your lentils. Quinoa. I think we'll be having quinoa at another breakfast time. These are alkaline grains, but they're also gluten-free grains, so that's made them very popular. Amaranth. Amaranth is a grain that's not very well known. I think the Aztecs, traditionally they've eaten the quinoa and the amaranth. It's a very tiny grain, and when you cook it, it goes like a lump of glue. But what I often do when my grandsons are with us, because they like a porridge, I'll put a little amaranth with the millet, or I'll put a little amaranth with the quinoa.
Now, when it comes to grains, I always like to start with millet. It's one of the few grains that's alkaline forming, and we had it just this morning, didn't we? It's a gentle, simple grain. On its own, yes, it's quite plain, but that's the beauty of it. It carries other flavours so well. I often serve it with stewed apples, a drizzle of cream, and a little sprinkle of seeds or cinnamon on top. Just delightful. But millet doesn't always have to be sweet. It also pairs beautifully with savoury dishes, alongside lentils or with a rich vegetable stew. Then there's quinoa, which we often enjoy at breakfast as well. It's light, protein-rich, alkaline-forming and naturally gluten-free, which makes it very popular today. And let me tell you about amaranth. It's not as common, but it's been used for centuries, especially by the Aztecs. It's a tiny grain, and yes, when you cook it, it can go a little sticky, almost like a lump of glue, but it's very nourishing. When my grandsons come to visit, I'll stir a little amaranth into their millet porridge or their oats. It thickens beautifully and gives them that satisfying, comforting texture they enjoy in the morning. Grains like these, millet, quinoa, amaranth, they're gentle, grounding and versatile. When combined with fruits, seeds or legumes, they become both delicious and deeply supportive to the body. And really, isn't that what food should be?
It's the blue in the blue vein cheese. The blue in the blue vein cheese is mould. So the only cheeses that don't sit under that category, the cheeses that have probably a pH of 7 would be your fresh. So that's your cottage, your ricotta. I'm not saying that they are okay, because usually they come from cows who have not been fed right or have chemicals in them. But on the pH scale, they're not as acid. Caffeine, all your caffeine foods and drinks have an acid effect. And of course, caffeine usually comes hand in hand with the sugar, which certainly ups it. And remember our 2.6 Coca-Cola, that's a combination of the caffeine and the sugar. Did you know that Coca-Cola is called Coca-Cola? Because I think it was in the early part of the 20th century, they put cocaine in it. And then they went over to caffeine, which is just as dangerous.
People often ask me about cheese, and I always say, let's look at the blue vein cheeses first. That lovely marbled look, that's mould, plain and simple. Now, mould has its place in nature, but not so much in the body. It can be highly acid-forming and hard on the gut. The only cheeses that sit a little outside that heavy acidic category are the fresh ones, like cottage cheese or ricotta. I'm not saying they're ideal, mind you, because most come from cows that have been fed with grain, chemicals, or hormones. But on the acid-alkaline scale, they're not quite as burdensome as the aged, mouldy varieties. Now let's talk about caffeine. All caffeine-containing foods and drinks, your coffee, black tea, energy drinks, they're acid-forming. And they often come hand in hand with sugar, which adds another layer of stress on the body. Take Coca-Cola, for example. Do you know its pH is around 2.6? That's almost as acidic as battery acid. And originally it was named Coca-Cola because, believe it or not, it once contained cocaine. When that was removed, they replaced it with caffeine, which may not be illegal, but it can still be highly disruptive to the nervous system and digestion. Now, not everything we eat is technically a food. Take tobacco, for example. It's not a food at all, but it still creates a very acidic environment in the body. And when we talk about healing or maintaining health, that internal environment is absolutely crucial.
A food, but it creates an acid environment in the body. Tobacco is not a food, but it also creates an acid environment in the body. All your other grains, other than the grains that sit on the alkaline side, all your other legumes, other than the lima, lentil and soy, and all your other nuts, other than the almond and Brazil, have an acid effect. To maintain the 6.5 environment, we need to be consuming 20% acid-forming foods and 80%, 70 to 80% alkaline-forming foods. And I'm sure you're not surprised to hear me say that the 20% should come from this section here. Yes, oatmeal is here. Yes, rice is here. They're not bad grains.
Among the grains, only a few, millet, quinoa, amaranth, fall on the alkaline forming side. The others, yes, including oatmeal and rice, are more acid forming, though not inherently bad. I still use them in moderation, especially when well combined with greens or alkaline vegetables. The same goes for legumes. Only lima beans, lentils and soy are truly alkaline forming. The rest, while nutritious, push the body a bit more toward the acidic side. And nuts? Most are acid forming, with almonds and Brazil nuts being the gentler exceptions. Now, I'm not saying we should avoid acid forming foods altogether. In fact, the body does need a balance. But here's the key. We want to maintain an internal environment around pH 6.5, slightly on the alkaline side. And to do that, our daily intake should ideally be around 70–80% alkaline forming foods, with just 20–30% acid forming. And that 20%, it should come from whole, clean, natural sources, not artificial or processed. So yes, that oatmeal or brown rice you enjoy can absolutely be part of a healthy plan. Just balance it with plenty of greens, vegetables and clean water. That's how we support the body's design to heal gently and steadily.
Yes, your chickpeas are here, and your garbanzos, your chickpeas, your black-eyed beans, your kidney beans. They're not bad. Of course they're not bad. We need a little acid. It's when the whole meal is acid that tips the scales. How many Americans would be eating 90% acid, 10% alkaline? Is that true? No wonder cancer and heart disease are neck to neck for the #1 killers in the world today. Far more people die from alcohol-related diseases. Far more people die from tobacco-related diseases, and yet they're not banning tobacco or alcohol, are they? That's why the deaths to COVID fade into insignificance against all of these. That's why God gave us a sound mind to assess these things.
When we talk about healing the body, especially the joints, we simply can't overlook vegetables. These vibrant gifts from the garden are the very foundation of an anti-inflammatory, alkalizing and deeply nourishing diet. I always say the more colours on your plate, the more medicine in your meal. Now, we've spoken about the dark leafy greens. Those are daily essentials. But there's a whole rainbow beyond that. Carrots, beetroot, pumpkin, zucchini, each brings its own unique nutrient profile. Carrots, for example, are rich in beta-carotene, which the body converts to vitamin A, a key nutrient for skin, immunity, and even joint lubrication. Beetroot? It's like a tonic for the blood. It helps support healthy circulation and liver detoxification. I often shred it raw into salads or juice it with carrot and celery for a mid-morning lift. Pumpkin and sweet potatoes are wonderful sources of natural sugars, fibre, and anti-inflammatory compounds. They're grounding, comforting, and easy to digest, especially when gently roasted or steamed. Then we have cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. These are like little detox units. They help the liver metabolize toxins and excess hormones, which is incredibly important, especially for women. I love lightly steaming broccoli and topping it with olive oil and lemon zest for a simple yet healing side dish. Now I must mention celery. This humble vegetable is a powerhouse when it comes to joint health. It's high in potassium and sodium, natural electrolytes that support hydration and nerve function. I often juice it fresh in the mornings or chop it into soups and stews to add crunch and minerals. Even something as simple as a cucumber has a role to play. It's hydrating, cooling, and supports the connective tissues. I often say, if your joints feel hot or swollen, cooling vegetables like cucumber, lettuce, and celery can help ease that fire. The key really is to make vegetables the centerpiece of your meals, not just an afterthought on the side. Build your dishes around them, roast them, steam them, eat them raw, blend them into soups. Your joints, your skin, your energy levels, they all respond beautifully when you flood the body with the colours of the garden. And remember, every vegetable is a message from the earth saying, "Here, let me help you heal." The body is always working to heal, it just needs the right tools. By adding these simple, nourishing foods to your meals, you're supporting that natural process. So eat well, move gently, and trust in the body's design. Healing begins in the kitchen, one bite at a time.